Well, hello, folks. Did you guys watch the Black Sabbath Back to the Beginning concert today? I spent the after tax and fees or whatever, it came to like $36 and I think 3 cents. So I spent the $36 and I think it was worth it. It was very entertaining. It was emotional. A lot of cool bands played. There were some cool little snippets in between some of the sets that were entertaining. Like some little interviews with younger and more marginalized, even though it's less marginalized these days. But it shows you how far society has come, or some would say fallen, but I would say come since Black Sabbath started, I guess. So it's pretty cool. Like, I guess even one of those snippets, like I don't have any tattoos. I just, if you want tattoos, that's your thing. But for me, I just don't want someone else to like permanently mark my body. But I have nothing against tattoos if you want to get them. But the tattoo guy in the interview, he was talking about how they used to be rebellious, and people were more intimidated by people with tattoos and such, and these days it's just like normal. And that's kind of like how it is, and it's because of bands like Black Sabbath. But anyway, um enough praise has been heaped on Sabbath today. I'm going to sort of critique the show from start to finish, maybe. And we'll just get right into it. So before the show started, there was like a waiting room for like 30 minutes. I'm talking from the online streaming perspective, too. I'm not talking about actually being there. I wasn't that lucky to actually be there. But so Mastodon comes out first, and that was pretty cool. I grew up listening to Mastodon. They actually played Blood and Thunder, which was surprising. I didn't know if they still played that or not, because I remember being in high school when that first came out, and like half of my friends like playing that on guitar and stuff, and just being like, dude, check it out, man, look what I can play. And so that was cool. Mastodon. And then that was like your first like semi drum circle thing going on too, because like Danny Carey came out, and a couple other dudes that I don't know. I don't know everybody, but they were just like banging on some auxiliary percussion when they did their Black Sabbath cover. So pretty much every band, with the exception of a few, they did like pretty much 2 original songs and then a Sabbath cover. So Mastodon's Sabbath cover, they did Supernaut, and that was when Danny Carey was out there. And he was looking kind of bored with that little drum sesh. He was just like, okay, like what do I do? But it was early in the show. It was the first band to do a set. So I think everyone was still kind of trying to feel it out. But then Rival Sons came up next, a band that I'm not too familiar with. I am a fan of a band that I think only ever had one album. Speaking of bands with rival in the name, I like a band called Rival Schools. You should check them out. I was thinking maybe one day, I don't listen to that Turnstile band that everyone likes now, but I was thinking about doing like 5 bands that Turnstile fans should listen to, maybe that they might not have listened to, because a lot of people that like Turnstile, I think, are like just getting into like hard rock or like post hardcore or like I don't know, whatever you want to call it, you know? Uh, but the other band, Rival Schools, would be one of those bands that would be on like my five. Turnstile was influenced by bands like this list. But anyway, Rival Sons came out and they did all right. You know, they did just like some blues rock, like octave pedal blues rock that we have Jack White to thank for, even though the White Stripes are like completely their own thing, and I will always love the White Stripes. But so Rival Sons did their thing. They were fine. Uh, Ironically, one of the songs on their set list, I'm not familiar with their songs or anything, but it says their song that they started was Do Your Worst. So they did their thing, but they weren't the worst band of the day by far. And they're fine. Rival Sons, you're fine in my book, guys. Then Anthrax comes up, so that was cool. Charlie Benante's first performance of the day, also making an appearance later with the Pantera tribute. So Anthrax did their thing. That was cool. And it was like, all right, dude, we're at a proper heavy metal show. Legends are in the house, right? And after Anthrax does their thing, we get Halestorm. And they were fine. You know, Halestorm, they look cool, right? You know, and they're a great band for like younger people, like just getting into rock, I think. I don't dislike Halestorm, but I don't think I would ever pay money to go to a Halestorm concert. But, you know, Lizzie Hale's cool, even though she went a little too hard on like the metal women struggle, you know, a little bit in the set. She was the only one to complain. There was some other group later that was like they had a chick playing the cello with them and they were rocking out. And like I was like, this chick's not like complaining about being a woman in metal. So anyway, you know, and then Lizzie Hale would come out later for a second time and she did like a costume change and she's like in a red dress after already wearing like essentially what all the other pop stars wear these days. You know, the pop star chicks, they wear like the it looks like a one-piece swimsuit essentially, except hers, she just had like the bottom and then she had like a leather jacket or whatever, you know. I don't know. It's for me, like I don't care about what a band looks like. I just want the band to sound good, dude. Like, you know, I saw My Chemical Romance when I saw them in 2003. They literally played in the dark and they were like the opening band on this bill. I didn't even mean to go off on this side tangent, but like they were such a good band that like I saw them play in the dark and I was impressed and bought a t-shirt and my friend bought the CD and you know a year later they went from being this band that played in the dark to being on MTV with, you know, they got the image and stuff after that. But my point is like the music is more important than the image to me, even though these days like people are always complaining about why music is so bad these days. And I think it's just because people are, you know, they're listening with their eyes. But like I said, this isn't a tangent that I plan to go off on. And Lizzie Hale, I didn't mean to make you the poster girl for my rant. You know, you honestly kind of remind me of, I used to be in a band with this chick that sings. She's still in a really good punk band called No Anger Control. You guys should check them out. But we had this band called the Bamfs. We played for, you know, almost 2 years, give or take a little bit. And Lizzie Hale kind of reminds me of Tiffany, the chick that sings for what used to be my band and now for this other band, No Anger Control. And they're just cool chicks that, they're not ever really mean to anyone or anything. So I respect that as someone who often gets called, not so nice. But anyway, so Halestorm did their thing. They played some new song called Rain Your Blood on Me, which Slayer came and played Raining Blood later. And that was pretty cool. So Halestorm, a little foreshadowing, if you want to say. And then Lamb of God comes up next. That was pretty sick, dude. Lamb of God. They laid it down. Sorry, I'm a little burpy. I ate a little snack before I did this video. I just watched like an 8-hour plus concert, 10-hour concert, however long that was. I didn't stand in the soccer stadium all day like some lucky people, but I'm still like, I needed a little fuel. So Lamb of God does their thing. Their Children of the Grave cover was cool, but it was a little weak. It was, you could tell Randy Blythe was a little nervous. Not his wheelhouse to do like actual singing stuff as much. But I like Randy Blythe, dude. I've been meaning to check out his book, but if you haven't watched it, check out the TV show. It's a miniseries. It's like an 8-episode miniseries. It's the spin-off of a movie. And anyway, the TV show is called Paradise City. And Randy Blythe, he plays in this fictional band. I can't remember what their band name's called. But he's in this band. And they're like kind of like the washed up old guys in the show. And anyway, he has this repeating line in the show, and it's Kevin hit the fog. And every time I see Randy Blythe, that's the first thing I say. But most people don't get it because they haven't seen the show. So you guys have to go and watch Paradise City when we're done here, and watch the movie that came before it too. So that way we can all share the same inside joke. Kevin hit the fog. Gosh, what was Randy Blythe's band's name in Paradise City? Put it down in the comments if you know. I'm not going to look it up right now because I don't want to ruin this list that Louder Sound is so nice to have already posted that I'm reading off of. All right, so after Lamb of God, we had what was billed as Tom Morello's Communist Sympathizers Orchestra. No, I'm just kidding. All politics aside, the new singer for Alice in Chains went on some rant too. He was like, no matter what your politics are in here, we're all riff-loving freaks or something like that. So that was pretty cool. I can sympathize. I like that. As a riff-loving freak myself, I feel like I'm pretty normal, but people call me a freak. I guess whatever you want to call them. Yuppies. Yuppie scum. You know what they can do. Don't put that in the comments, though, because then I don't know if the algorithm would like that. But anyway, so Supergroup A, brought to you by Tom Morello, even though he didn't even actually come out for this first thing, this first session of Supergroup. Tom Morello was nowhere to be found, I don't believe. But so this was where Lizzie Hale came back out in her red dress after saying how hard it was to be a woman in metal or whatever. And then I guess the rock and roll gods listened when she said rain blood on me or whatever. They listened backstage and gave her a nice sheer red dress that she could wear to impress Nuno Betancourt, who makes his first appearance. He was around for a lot of the show for a while. We got like almost like 3 hours of Nuno Betancourt today. But I'm not complaining, dude. Nuno's cool, dude. He's like, Nuno's got a vibe, man. He's a real deal rock and roll guy. And I feel like if he was in another band besides Extreme, no offense to Extreme, and I can't remember the singer for Extreme's name, that I think, didn't he sing on Van Halen 3 too? But anyway, that guy, the Extreme guy, no offense to you, but I think Nuno would have gotten more credit as a guitar player if he was in a different band besides Extreme. Or maybe no one would ever know who he was, right? But so they jam. Jakey Lee's out there. He wasn't really sounding too good, Jakey Lee, but I noticed like later in the show, they started doing like almost like instant highlights and some of the set changeover times. And I feel like they, some of the mixes sounded better and almost like they went in and like touched up the songs like lickety split. The show was on a 2-hour delay from the live performances or whatever. So they could have done some really quick touch-up work on some of the stuff. It was ironically the Supergroup A here. Some of Jakey Lee's stuff sounded pretty bad. And then Alice in Chains got a little sloppy, but we're still talking about this first group. They did The Ultimate Sin, which was like, it was fine, but that song, like Lizzie Hale's a pretty good singer, even though I'm not a huge Halestorm fan or whatever, but Lizzie Hale's a great singer and she had a hard time with doing The Ultimate Sin. And that's one of my favorite Ozzy songs. So it just shows you how good of a singer Ozzy really is. The fact that, Lizzie Hale was struggling with his material. And then we got Sweet Leaf with the Disturbed guy. They did Shot in the Dark too, but it wasn't that great. Sweet Leaf is hard to hate on. Oh yeah, because Scotty Ian came back out, and that was cool. Gotta love Scotty Ian. I was talking to my buddy during the show, and he was saying like Scotty Ian's like your heavy metal uncle or something like that. And I didn't tell him that both my buddy and I that I was talking to were both old enough to be heavy metal uncles at this point in our lives too. But I, didn't even think to mention it at that point. But then the Sleep Token drummer came out. Okay, so shout out to that guy. I don't listen to Sleep Token, but I did notice that the Sleep Token drummer, he looked really comfortable out there behind the kit, and he was just rocking it, dude. He had a pretty good presence. And I don't know, shout out to you, guy, Sleep Token guy, with your mask on. And then Youngblood came out and did Changes, which, as a pop punk fan, someone who grew up on that stuff, and like, I don't know, Youngblood's a little bit younger than me. I don't know his age group. But I don't know. I just can't relate 100% with that guy. But it's fine. Like I was talking about My Chemical Romance a few minutes ago in this rant, and Youngblood's style, he's looking like he wants to be Gerard Way, wanting to be Dave Vanian from The Damned. And it's just kind of like, it's just like one too many layers, like Fight Club says a copy of a copy of a copy, or as Laura Jane Grace would say, an impression of an original defeats the blank in purpose. So I don't know where this is going, but it's looking more and more like the same place that we started. Anyway, wasn't trying to go on an Against Me lyric rant there. But then, all right, so Changes happens. We also, later on in the show, I'm going to go ahead and spoil it. not go totally sequential, but Fred Durst does a different version of Changes, which Youngblood did Changes, which is one of my favorite Ozzy songs, which is why I was kind of disappointed with the Youngblood thing, because that song, I don't know, I just didn't want to hear that. The Fred Durst version that happened later on, he was the only one not to do a live performance, except for Jack Black, who came next in this Supergroup A at the very end. It was like a School of Rock type performance with Jack Black and some kids doing Mr. Crowley. So that was cool. They did it in the vein of that live performance, the TV performance with Ozzy and Randy Rhoads, where Ozzy's in like the blue jumpsuit. And that was cool. But so the Fred Durst version of Changes, like I was saying, I like the arrangement that they did of it, but it was sloppy. I know Fred Durst doesn't like it when people don't kiss his behind, but when they don't kiss his Durst. But so anyway, he kind of he didn't. He should have let me give him some coaching on how to phrase his vocal melodies on his version of Changes. But I did like the guitar player and the cellist in the studio with him. They had a great arrangement for the instrumentals for Mr. Durst. All right, so then Alice in Chains after Supergroup A. It was fine. You know, we love Alice in Chains. Sean Kinney, glad he's back healthy again. I guess he was going through some health problems recently. One of my favorite drummers from the grunge era, Sean Kinney. Always just great stage presence, you know, great sense of humor off stage. And he plays this sort of like simple yet sophisticated style that, you know, like Alice in Chains, they're not always in 4/4 time, you know, and Sean Kinney he does it seamlessly whenever he needs to play, whatever he needs to play, you know, whether it be in 7 or 4/4 or whatever else, you know, the Alice in Chains Man in the Box waltz version. All right, so then, fresh off of their Olympics performance or whatever they did recently, Gojira. That was cool, dude. They, up until this point of the day, Gojira was my favorite act so far. And yeah, dude, it was just cool. I liked their drummer's kit too. It was cool. Kind of like a I don't know what you would call that color. There's a guitar finish that I can't remember. The Fender. It's a Fender color finish. I was gonna say Tahitian, but it's not it. Why can't I? Whatever. I'm not gonna rack my brain for that too long. But anyway, Gojira, y'all were great. Your drummer's kit looked great. Even some of the guitars were cool. And then we get to the drum off, which, as far as drum offs go, it wasn't, you know, very impressive, but it was respectful between your three drummers, which were Danny Carey and then Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I think maybe that's the reason this drum off seemed so anticlimactic, you know, because you compare it to his drum off with Will Ferrell, or even God, I feel like Chad Smith's done a couple other drum offs, you know. He hasn't done one with Dave Grohl, has he? Am I getting the one with Dave Grohl and Animal from the Muppets mixed up or something? But anyway, Travis Barker is the third guy in the drum off, and that was cool. You know, he's always flown the flag for the metalheads. You've seen Travis with his Slayer shirts and stuff at award shows. And then, as I was already saying earlier, and you guys know because you've seen the footage and the lineup. Slayer did play, and they did great too. But Travis was looking cool. He during the drum off, man, if I was a judge, I would give Travis Barker he won the style points, man, because he was just, had the lanky arms going, and it was cool. And then you got Danny Carey had like perfect posture, and then Chad Smith's just being Chad Smith. Chad Smith's awesome. All right, so after the drum off, you got Billy Corgan. This was I didn't have this one on my bingo card, dude. Billy Corgan plays Breaking the Law with Tom Morello, a couple of the Tool guys, KK Downing from Priest, and then Rudy Sarzo's out there. Rudy did a lot of jamming today too, man. And Rudy Sarzo is, they always say Dave Grohl is the nicest guy in rock, dude. Rudy Sarzo needs to get a little bit of credit as one of the nicest guys in rock, man. He's always so gracious to his fans. And, he's, as far as I know, he's not really heavy into the substances or, anything like that. He's just a nice, gracious, humble, rock and roller. All right, so Supergroup B, Billy Corgan's doing his thing for a little while. It wasn't Billy Corgan. He's not that great as just a hold the mic and do the frontman thing, but he was trying. He was having fun. I think even he was getting a little frustrated with his voice, kind of giving him some trouble today. And I mean, singing's hard, man. As we saw today, if you go back and watch this performance, like the entire concert, I mean, you see a lot of people really struggling with a lot of these Ozzy songs, or even some of the other covers, right? Like Breaking the Law is not an Ozzy song, but it's still a cover. And it's always just interesting to see, what singers do with it. Because the other musicians, if they want to, all they have to do is just play the part, right? The part's written, but the voice is, so personal. And we're all different. Everyone's so different. Your vocals are unique and special snowflake. All right, so then Sammy Hagar comes out, and that was a cool surprise. Sammy, he can still sing, but he's struggling a little bit at times. Vernon Reid came out, which was cool. I share something in common with Vernon Reid. We both play PRS Velas, except his has a Floyd Rose and mine is a hardtail. It has like the PRS does this cool like brass barrel saddle, like almost Telecaster, but it's two pieces instead of three, like a Telecaster bridge with the barrel saddles that's got 3 sets of 2, and then for the 6 strings. And then on the Vela, my version of the Vela, it's got 2 saddles with 3 notches. But then Vernon Reid's is totally different because it's a Floyd Rose, and Floyds are cool. I kind of want to get another guitar with a Floyd. Oh, you hear the sirens out there? I'm living on the rough side of town, guys. Rock and roll. But so Vernon Reid, Floyd Rose, that's what we were talking about. I want to get a guitar with a Floyd Rose again so I can do some Pantera songs and stuff. Not to perform for you guys, but just at home, learn some Pantera stuff is fun, instead of doing puzzles or crossword Sudoku. But yeah, Floyd Roses, they're hard to tune and they're just a pain. I had one like growing up and I wish I hadn't have sold it, but I sold it and I'll never get it back. But I didn't sell it. I traded it for a bass and maybe a little bit of cash or something at the time. It was a long time ago. I didn't have a bass at the time, and I was doing some demos. And these days, I don't really put bass on any of my demos because I'm just like, well, Metallica did And Justice for All with no bass, so I'm a solo act, so why don't I just go And Justice for All style? But yeah, I traded my only Floyd Rose guitar for a bass a long time ago. And then I traded that bass for something else. And, it's the circle of being a broke musician. And you can't have everything you want. A Rolling Stone. Oh, there was a Rolling Stone that showed up. I was gonna say that unfortunately Mick Jagger didn't show up, and he didn't show up, but Ronnie Wood from the Rolling Stones did show up in this second supergroup jam, and they played with Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, dude. That was the surprise of the day, and Steven Tyler stole the show. Wow, that guy can still sing like it is 1977, dude. Like, whoa. I don't know, was 77 a good year for Aerosmith? I don't know, but anyway, he was still younger back then. And then obviously they had a good run in the 90s too. So let's just say he was still singing like it was the 90s, baby. Doing the Wayne's World thing. But it was awesome, dude. Seriously, my favorite part of the day, because I thought that Steven Tyler was never going to perform again because of the whole Aerosmith thing getting canceled. I did hear those rumors that Aerosmith might do one final concert, and now obviously after this, I mean those offers are going to go even further if they were getting offers. If I were Aerosmith, I'd just find like a Boston charity to donate to or something, and just donate the proceeds like Sabbath did. But I don't know. I'm not an Aerosmith, and I don't know if they got paid out for their insurance for their tour getting canceled or what. That was my first thought when Steven Tyler's singing as good as he was there. I was like, dude, if they paid him out for like vocal injuries or whatever, the insurance company, they're gonna be pissed when they see this video of him just like rocking it. But you could tell he was still pretty feeble. There were a few times he was like rocking a little too hard, and I was like, dude, I know it's like totally unrock and roll to say this, but Steven Tyler, settle down, old man. But it was great. Gosh, man, Steven Tyler, legend, absolute legend, bro. Probably the coolest rock and roller of all time, except for maybe his partner Joe Perry, dude. Like, nobody looks cooler than Joe Perry with the guitar. It's just, tell me one. You can't do it. You can't do it, dude. Joe Perry. And then I've said this too, like if you listen to some of like the Pantera stuff, that like some of those licks that Dimebag plays, even though they're like super heavy, man, you can hear some Joe Perry and some of Dime's playing. Sometimes it's impressive. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, but go back and do your homework. Listen to some of the earlier Pantera stuff. There's some riffs on Cowboys from Hell, definitely, that are pretty Joe Perry. And then there's one or two others on some stuff. Probably not towards the end, but honestly, maybe even one on Reinventing the Steel. He might have had a lick or two. Because that's, a lot of people say they don't like Reinventing the Steel, but that's one of my favorite Pantera records. And then you factor in the fact that they produced it themselves, and that's pretty cool. So I've been talking about Pantera. They're next. They finally played. I was like, when's Pantera going to play? Charlie Benate's Kit's been on stage for the last God knows how long. We ended up playing a totally different kit for the Pantera portion of the show. Also, shout out to the road crew for this. I mean, they worked their tails off the entire day. I don't know if they got quick breaks, but the bands only had to play 30-minute sets, The road crews out there busting their tail from before anyone's even at the gig. They're probably just now finishing tearing it down. I don't know what time it is. But I mean, and those turnarounds were quick, but they had a pretty good setup going. They had like a revolving stage and like a little partition that came down, like that sign that says back to the beginning. It came down right behind the drum riser for the band that you would see on the side of the curtain, or the side of the banner. And then I guess they were doing the set changes on the backstage side. And, then it would just rotate, and then they would, finish what they had to do to set up and start tearing down the other one and just cycle them out. And I mean, they did, every band got about 30 minutes. So they're doing 2 bands, 3 bands an hour. It's impressive, man. Shout out to the road crew. Go and crank that Motorhead song, Road Crew, and get you a cold brew. Guys and gals that worked that show, great job. Even the people that were working the stream online, man, no real big hiccups during Alice in Chains set, which, like I said, they weren't sounding that great until they played like the re-edited highlight version later. Like I said, I think they re-edited some of the highlights before they popped them up, which is fine. I get it. But the Alice in Chains set, there was like a quick muting that lasted for maybe 90 seconds, maybe like a couple minutes tops. And they got it fixed once the live stream chat pretty much was just a constant stream of people saying refund. And then, Sharon's not giving that money back. But they're donating it anyway, which is cool. Don't quote me on this, but it's for like some Parkinson's thing. And then they were showing a commercial for like the like a Manchester Children's Hospital or something too, which is cool. But anyway, Pantera played. They did cool. I thought, going back to my favorite Pantera album possibly being Reinventing the Steel, one of my top 5 Pantera songs is Goddamn Electric. Your trust is in whiskey and weed and Black Sabbath. It's goddamn electric. That's I thought they should have played that, dude. That would have been perfect. But they didn't. They played, Cowboys from Hell and Walk. And they did a pretty good version of Planet Caravan that was so good just because, dude, Zakk Wylde shredded the most just like jaw-melting solo on what's one of the most like casual songs of all time. I mean, I know Tony Iommi has a solo on the original version, but it's much more like, just like hippie bohemian. And then I don't remember what Dime's solo sounded like on the studio version of the Pantera Planet Caravan cover. Because when I'm listening to Pantera, I don't really want to listen to chill. You know what I mean? But, the Pantera cover that has existed for 20 years now, Planet Caravan, it's fine. And then I guess it says they did Electric Funeral too, which I kind of remember. But at this point, I was getting tired. I think I went pee real fast. Because I thought they were done. Because they were doing Planet Caravan. And I was like, oh, well, they did their 2 songs in the cover. But anyway, so it says they did Electric Funeral too. I probably caught a second of that. I might not have. Then Tool finally came and played. and they did probably their two biggest hits. They did 46 and 2, which is one that, I mean, it's a fine song, but it's not one of my favorite Tool songs. But a lot of people that I know that are Tool fans, they love that song. That's like one of the first ones that they'll put on. So, good for the fans. They got to hear a song that they like. They covered Hand of Doom, which they did a pretty good job of. Maynard kind of struggled with it, like in the second verse a little bit, but I thought it was fine. I was like cheering him on because like he started out like really good with it, and I was like, wow, I'm surprised because like sometimes Maynard doesn't sing other people's songs very good, and even though I do like the Tool version of No Quarter is pretty good, but anyway, I was like cheering for Maynard. I was like, come on, man, like don't fuck up. Except I wasn't saying don't fuck up, but you know what I mean. And also it was kind of cool to see Tool play. It was almost like seeing Kiss unmasked, because Tool, normally they're all just in the shadows or behind a really cool light show and video show. And it was just like a really bare bones Tool performance, which you don't really see. So that was cool. I dug it. Like I said, I was a little disappointed that all we got from them was Enema and 46 and 2, but it's, everything with them is so long, and I was almost hoping, since Hand of Doom has like almost like an anti-heroin message, I was hoping that Tool would play a song that you don't hear them play very much anymore, but is one of my favorites. Is just called H, which I don't know if that's about the same subject matter or not. It might be, it might not be, but that's one of my favorite Tool songs. I actually might listen to that song when I'm done ranting here, which might be soon. I don't know. It says it's like 42 minutes here on this timer. I'm shocked. I didn't plan on it taking this long, but we're going all the way through now, guys. We got 5 more acts left, so we're almost there. We got the pentagram left, so let's run the let's pray the pentagram, just like the Catholics pray the rosary. Oh my God, I'm gonna burn for that one, aren't I? Sweet Jesus. All right, speaking of pentagrams, dude, Slayer, that's next. We're talking Slayer now. So I'm not a huge Slayer scholar, so I'm not gonna pretend to know everything about Slayer, but it was really cool when they were playing Rain and Blood and Angel of Death at the end. They had some gnarly mosh pits going, dude. Probably the biggest, most intense looking mosh pits I saw all day. Maybe it was just they were finally getting some good aerial shots of the crowd at this point, but there were at least 8. They're playing on a soccer field, so it's a huge mass of bodies, but there's at least 8 mosh pits going on throughout this, soccer field full of people. And you just have to think, like, if you go to like club shows, like each one of those mosh pits you see going on is like essentially like the size of an entire club show, just going off in this, intense circle pit. So that was really cool, dude. Slayer. Some brutal riffs. Like I said, I'm not a huge Slayer fan, but they did great. Also, I noticed the caliber of babes backstage were starting to ramp up at this point. I didn't know that Guns N' Roses was next, but I was like, dude, maybe that's why Slayer got back together, man. It's all for the babes. I mean, not for me personally, but, compared to not, if it's something you're used to, I'd be like, man, I got to get back out there. I mean, whoa. So anyway, speaking of babes and rock and roll groupies, the caliber might have also gone up because they were ex-strippers from the Guns N' Roses days, because that's who we got next. And they were relatively on time, so that was good. No huge drama with the Guns N' Roses set. I was also telling my buddy, I was like, if there's ever one show that you want to just show up and be a pro, it's the Ozzy, farewell concert. You don't want to make it all about you on the Ozzy farewell day, Axl Rose. So he did pretty well. He tripped on stage for a second. He didn't fall. He just tripped. He caught himself, and he made a quick little joke about that. But I don't know if it was a sound issue on stage. They did, like I was saying, they did highlight versions later in between sets. And in the highlight version, it seemed like it was a better audio quality, but Axl, just as a performer, he was rushing his vocals. He was like ahead of the beat and ahead of the song most of the time. So like, I don't know if he had like a metronome in his in-ear, and if he just doesn't even listen to the band, and if he just like sings to the click, and maybe if his click was a little bit ahead, because he was like a half a beat ahead of the band at some points. And at times I was like, it might be a technical thing, but then like I was saying, even and the highlight versions, it still sounded like he was just not on the same page as the rest of the band, which the rest of the band sounded great. They were tight. And I did notice too, they were the only band, they had their amps turned towards the backstage. So I don't know if that's just to like, well, actually I do know that it most likely was probably to keep the stage volume low for Axl, so he could, he wasn't singing very loud, obviously. So his mic, the gain on his mic is probably up pretty high, and he's, talking, he's essentially talk singing or whatever. So it probably helps. He's kind of relying on a falsetto that wasn't very convincing a lot of the time. Gosh, Axl's gonna hate me. Go if you never have, do yourself a favor and listen to Reinventing Axl Rose by Against Me too. Great album, classic album, and just listen to that song. Read the lyrics to that song. Go do that. And that, if you want to make your life based on some lyrics, Reinventing Axl Rose by Against Me. Fantastic. All right, so Guns N' Roses, they did their thing. It was fine. And then Metallica. So that was, it's Metallica, old Metallica. Honestly, I think old Ozzy beats old Metallica too, man. Metallica did fine. They played what you would expect of them, essentially, for such a short period of time. They got a little bit more. Slayer and Metallica got essentially like 6 song sets, when the rest of the bands got, 3 song sets. So it was cool. I mean, they did a good version of Hole in the Sky. Metallica did. Ironically, I was listening to that song this morning. I made a post about the show on Instagram, and I was trying to use Hole in the Sky for the song, but for some reason they don't have Sabotage songs available. And they had a couple live versions. I used a live version of a different song, and they didn't even have the part I wanted to use for that song. So it was, I don't know, it was kind of annoying. I'm trying to remember what the other Sabbath song was. It might have been After Forever. I can't remember. But it's the one, it's all like hard rocking, and then it goes to sounding all hippy dippy. And that one's gonna bug me. Why can't I remember the name of this song? Oh my gosh, dude. I'm gonna be so annoyed at myself. Be like, Symptom of the Universe. Yeah. So it's not After Forever. It's Symptom of the Universe. That's the one. Who did Symptom? Somebody did Symptom of the Universe for the show, I feel like. Maybe not. Oh, wait. Okay, so the drum off was Symptom of the Universe. I knew I heard that song at some point today. I was like, who did that? So, okay, cool. Yeah, that was cool. But of course, they didn't get to the part that I like the sort of hippy dippy part at the end where Ozzy's like singing about the lady and all that stuff. But anyway, so Metallica did their thing. All the Stranger Things fans got Master of Puppets. And are you guys excited for Stranger Things coming back soon? I am. Only thing I'm bummed about is I'm gonna have to get Netflix again. I haven't had Netflix in so long, but I'll get it for however long I need to watch Stranger Things. But finally, after Metallica did their thing, I thought it was weird. They had the 72 seasons art going, the yellow theme, but I don't think they played any songs off of 72 seasons. I didn't know if they would play like Lux Eterna and say like, may Ozzy live eternally or something. But, you know, I think too much, I guess. I try not to, but I can't help myself. But finally, after all of that, Ozzy Osborne, a man that I personally have been praying for months that he would get to do this show, because I don't know if you listen to the Osbournes podcast that the family does. They had been talking about it for a while, like even before he got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist. He was talking about how badly he wanted to perform again, and you could just tell. And then you know, they haven't really been doing the podcast lately. Maybe they'll pick it back up again briefly after this show now. I would love to hear an episode or two and get Ozzy's perspective a little more on what all has gone on the last 6 months or so getting this show ready. I mean, he really put a lot into this, and you could tell when he finally got on the stage, it was very emotional. They opened with I Don't Know, which I'm pretty sure is a pretty common opener for him over the years. You know, lyrically also pretty fitting for just everything, you know, but I guess it has been for forever, right? I mean, that's a great song. Absolutely great song. And man, you could tell Ozzy just wanted to jump right out of his seat. He tried almost, I feel like, a time or two. He wanted to walk so bad and get up and do what he's done for his entire life, man, which is jump up and down and tell everyone in the vicinity to just go crazy, you know? And he still told everybody to go crazy, and he sounded great. I mean, he was on point vocally, dude. The only person I think who sounded better today was Steven Tyler. Like, I mean, Steven Tyler laid it down, bro. And, you know, maybe Steven Tyler and his vocal rehab and stuff, you know, him and Ozzy, they may have talked. They may have, you know, Steven Tyler may have shared some things, or even just to vent, you know. I'm sure it probably helped Ozzy. I mean, gosh, dude, just think of all of the great musicians that paid tribute to Ozzy today. I mean, there were ones that didn't even show up that did video tributes too. I mean, you had Elton John, you had Dolly Parton did a video too. God, there were a bunch of people, man. But yeah, Ozzy effing Osbourne, man. So then he did Mr. Crowley, which is like, it's fine. I was like, you're really going to do Crowley right now, though? But Prince of Darkness, I guess he's probably got to keep his end of the bargain up with the forces of darkness, too. I don't know. He knows more about that than me. And then he did another song that is a really hard rocker, and another controversial song that I believe there were some court cases about back in the 80s. Something Solution. And, I guess he says it's just about his drinking and stuff, which, I mean, obviously, if you listen to those lyrics, but, the people that were suing him over those things back in the day, it was pretty controversial stuff, man. Ozzy went through a lot, and there is a darkness to rock and roll, man. There definitely is. Just ask the Pantera guys, dude. There was something weird about Pantera's set today, and Anselmo was having a good sense of humor out there and stuff, but I don't know. It just seemed weird. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they're being haunted by some weird stuff. I don't know why. I'm just getting those vibes from Pantera. Anselmo does like a good haunted house, though. But I guess if it's probably different, just like living haunted versus, creating your own little haunted house. I don't know. You ever been haunted, people? Let me know in the chat. And if you're a ghost, leave me alone. Bye. All right, so anyway, the Ozzy set, it finally gets to its emotional boiling point when he does Mama, I'm Coming Home. I mean, I cried. I'm about to cry again. No, I'm not. But, yeah, man, there were a bunch of people in the audience crying, too, on the cameras. And, Ozzy took a moment to just tell the crowd, it'd been over 6 years since he played a show, and, there's a lot going on in his mind, and he was just really thankful. And I think the tears from not just me, but the tears from a lot of people, it's tears of joy and tears of sadness, right? I mean, I was proud of Ozzy today, man. I was really proud of Ozzy today. He put on a great show for a guy who has been through so much with his health over the last several years. And, he's still got a long road ahead of him, dude. It's not going to be easy. But he got to experience that love that only a rock and roll star can experience from a crowd one more time. And, I hope he enjoys it, dude. So then he played Crazy Train, which it was great, it's Crazy Train, But it was a good palate cleanser from Mama, I'm Coming Home. And I'll never forget that, watching Mama, I'm Coming Home right there. It was just really special. And Zakk Wylde, I love the solo of Mama, I'm Coming Home too. It's always been really powerful. And my grandfather passed away last year. My grandmother passed away too last year, but she went first. My grandfather passed a couple months later. And I almost played Mama, I'm Coming Home at his funeral, but my family's they're not like a heavy metal family, you know what I mean? They're cool, but they're sort of religious. So I don't know. I was just like, I'm not going to play Ozzy because I don't want to offend anyone. Because like I said, people call me not so nice things often, even though I don't know. Maybe I should just get a little more metal and just say, I don't care. What would Phil Anselmo do? Stronger than all. All right, I'm done. And just like the concert was done after Sabbath, and they did great, man. They came out and played War Pigs to start, which, you know, great fan classic. I have a story about the Flaming Lips, the 2007 Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival, mind-altering substances, and Black Sabbath's War Pigs that I will maybe tell you a different day. But that made me think, where's Wayne Coyne, dude? Why isn't Wayne at the tribute show? But, you know, can't have everyone there. But, yeah, are you a Flaming Lips fan? Let me know in the chat if you've commented about being a Flaming Lips fan or not. I definitely know you've spent over an hour watching this, and that would be crazy. I can't believe I've ranted for an hour about a show. I have nothing going on in my life. So then they played Nib, Nativity in Black, whatever it means. Newton Isaac's Ballsack. All right, anyway, that was cool. That's another really cool Black Sabbath song. Geezer Butler's little bass solo before that is always cool. What do they call it? Like Basically? Is that what they call it? I think it's just called Basically, his little intro. But yeah, so after that, you know, they just did the pretty much two standards, Iron Man and Paranoid, and the fireworks went off. I thought it was funny. After everyone's set, all the bands went to the front of the stage, you know, and took a photo. And I guess Sabbath, like, they didn't do it right. But anyway, it was just funny because everyone else left the stage and there's Ozzy sitting in his chair and he's just like yelling at somebody off stage. He's like, are they going to start the effing show? Like talking about the fireworks, I guess. Because that's the only thing that happened after that. But I was like, damn, dude, Ozzy's just like, I don't know. It was just awesome, man. It's good to see that he's still cognitively all there, or mostly all there cognitively, you know. And like I said, I really hope to get some fresh Osbourne's family podcast episodes now that, obviously in the next couple weeks, the Osbourne's family and their camp, especially Ozzy, they deserve a much needed rest. But also keep Ozzy active too. I feel like with what's going on with Ozzy, you know, he probably doesn't need too much downtime, but you know, he deserves something. He deserves something. How about salvation? God bless Ozzy Osbourne. God bless all of you out there. And who will be the next big rock and roll band to go out on top like this? They're not all this lucky, man. They're a very fortunate band to have gone out the way that they went out. So, rock and roll. Stay black in your soul. Peace.